reflecting on how we can make this project compatible with our ambitions to decolonize, to shift power, and to be explicitly anti-racist in our work. So we've committed to working based on the principles of collaboration, flexibility, sustainability, and solidarity with our partner organizations. This is because we recognize that only a global feminist movement can bring about the changes that we need, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with our partners and allies across the globe. I'm going to talk to you now about, in a little more detail, about some of the work that we've been doing with our partner organizations. So currently we're working with the 50/50 group, the Budget Advocacy Network, and the British Council, working in collaboration with them kind of all together. They're based in Freetown in Sierra Leone. We're working with the Collaborative Centre for Gender and Development in Kenya, the Karditsa Women's Centre and ActionAid Hellas in Greece, and the Nonviolent Initiative for Democracy based in the United States. Next slide, please, Mariam. Thank you. So first up, the work that we're doing with our partners in Greece. We worked with ActionAid Hellas and Karditsa Women's Centre, two organizations who had established relationships with two municipal governments, one in Athens and one in Karditsa. They've been doing all of this brilliant work to bring community voices into the participatory budgeting process at municipal level. And we worked with them to develop and deliver training for local government officials from both municipalities. The training was about what gender responsive budgeting is and how it can be used. And the feedback that we collected during the session showed us that most people who attended felt much more confident about gender responsive budgeting after the training. And 70% of attendees indicated that they would definitely attend follow-up sessions. So that's what we're doing now. We're continuing to work with them, and we are due to hold our follow-up training for them in January. Next slide, please, Mariam. Thank you. In Kenya, we were approached by the Collaborative Centre for Gender and Development. They contacted us via LinkedIn, and they said that they would like our support to reinvigorate the Kenya Gender Budgeting Network, which was a network that sounded like it had a similar mission and structure to the Women's Budget Group. They are our longest standing partner, and we've been working with them since January to support them in their journey. We've delivered several training sessions covering various aspects of establishing a gender budgeting network, and we're continuing to work to support them during this very exciting time. Next slide, please. So I know that we've kind of raced through gender responsive budgeting and the Global Partnerships and Learning Programme. So I'd like to invite you now to do a little bit of thinking and reflecting, either now or when you leave this webinar. I'd like to invite you to think about your work and ask yourself the following questions. Where can you use gender responsive budgeting in your work? What do you need in order to use gender responsive budgeting? And finally, how would a gender impact analysis of the budget support your work? I think it's good to just, it's all nice to hear about the work that we're doing, but you are the experts in your own context, and it's really good to think about these questions and everything that you've heard today and relate it back to work that you're doing. Next slide, please, Mariam. So yes, these are our contact details if you'd like to get in touch with either of us to talk a little bit more. But now I'm going to open the floor up to your questions.
Thank you so much, Hannah. It's amazing. It's really impressive, the work that you have been doing. So inspiring for all of us. I have a quick question. Have you worked already on taking into account an intersectional approach? Have you already worked on the urban-rural divide and like the impact of the budget on women in rural and urban settings? Because the intersectionality factors differ from a context to another. Like in Tunisia, the main factor that we look at is the rural-urban divide?
Thank you, Sama. Yeah, so when we work through the Global Partnerships and Learning Program, this is something, an intersectional approach is one that centers the way that we work with them. But we're really led by the partner organizations themselves and what they need. And so far, we've had all of our partner organizations have a very good understanding of taking an intersectional approach and thinking of the concerns of different groups of women, specifically on the urban-rural divide. It's come up when we've been having our conversations with our partner organizations in Kenya, but we're supporting them more on capacity building to carry out analysis and research of their own. So this is something that they will lead on when they're doing their own research, but it's definitely something that we're aware of. Marion, do you have anything else I've missed?
Yeah, I know, I totally agree, Hannah. And I was just also reflecting on our experiences working in Sierra Leone. So we're going to be shortly doing some training in Freetown in a couple of weeks' time. And what our partners there are really keen to do is to use the Freetown training as kind of a pilot and then roll that out into other districts. And what we foresee, particularly in that context, that there will be some quite different experiences varying between urban communities and rural communities. So I think that will be something that will come up very concretely, I would say, in the context that we're working in with our partners in Sierra Leone. I just wanted to add that as an example.
Brilliant, thank you. And then another question. So you are training a lot of partners in different places of the world. Have you ever organized like a networking event for all these partners so they can exchange expertise? And how do you keep your network alive, and how you pass on information and opportunities?
Thank you, Sama. That's actually mine and Marion's big evil plan anyway. So we're thinking we bring our partners together wherever we can, but we haven't. This is our aim for the next 12 months, is to create a network where our partner organizations can keep in touch with each other, and we can really remove ourselves almost from the communication, and they can share resources and experiences. So this is definitely in our plans.
Absolutely. And can I just add to that as well, that we work with trainers. We have a pool of trainers from across the world, and we've brought those trainers together specifically in spaces just for them, which has also been really useful and has already led to increased cooperation between trainers working on gender responsive budgeting in different contexts, which we also think is really exciting. Though I think there's many levels of potential collaboration and increased networking, both among experts who are already active and do work on gender responsive budgeting all the time as their job, and also among organizations who are keen to improve the implementation of gender responsive budgeting. So I think there's really a lot of exciting potential and international collaboration. So we're really excited for the next stage of this program.
Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions that I will read out for the interpreter. Do you have recommendations on how to advocate for the adoption of GRB by policymakers? How can civil society from the MENA benefit from technical capacity building on GRB from Women's Budget Group? The second question is there any lessons learned you want to share from your work on GRB in different contexts? These two questions were asked by Siwar, and a third question was asked by Sahar, who says, have you faced any challenges related to accessing budgets, information, public spending in the MENA region? Civil society organizations face many challenges related to accessing information, as not so many governments are transparent about their budget and public spending. We can answer these, and then we have a last question in Arabic.
Do you want to kick off, Hannah, or shall I? I don't mind.
You start, because I think I'll have an answer for the third, I think it was the third question.
Okay, brilliant, perfect. So yes, in terms of recommendations for the adoption of GRB by policymakers, I think some things that with some kind of learnings that we have already is really, well, often it can be important to have that clear data, which is obviously that third question, which I'll leave to Hannah. But I think one of the really important things is that we often see, well, I think there's kind of two elements. One is obviously making the case for it, making it a priority for them, because policymakers are often, you know, they're responding to so many different needs and so many different priorities all the time. It's about making a really concrete case for them, and also showing them exactly how to do it. I think that, you know, there are two kind of categories, I suppose, of policymakers in that sense: those who need to be convinced about why it's important, and then those who are already convinced but want to know how to do it. So I think those are the two different stages that we usually take people through on a journey. I think one learning that we have is that people always want to hear of case studies where it's been successful, where other governments, particularly in similar contexts to their own, have adopted gender responsive budgeting and the impact that that has had. So that's been something that our partners have always been really keen for us to bring to the table, having positive case studies of change in other scenarios which are similar to theirs. So I think that would be a kind of, yeah, a crucial recommendation that I would make. In terms of civil society in the MENA region benefiting from technical capacity building, I'm very happy to, I know Hannah shared our contact details on the last slide, but I can also put them in the chat. So we'd be very happy to have follow-up conversations if there is interest about having specific technical capacity building sessions with particular organizations. We'd be really happy to have a conversation about that. And we're also going to be starting a series of webinars ourselves in the coming months around gender responsive budgeting, and kind of building on the learnings that we have and the work that we've been doing already. So I would say we'd be really happy to share details around those. And one good way to keep in touch with what we're doing is by signing up to the Women's Budget Group newsletter, which gives an update on our work and things upcoming. Yes, I'll stop there and I'll put some things in the chat, and I'll let Hannah answer the last question.
Thank you, Marion. So the question about accessing the budget information, public spending figures and data, this is something that we get a lot, and we realize that, like Marianne said, in the UK we're quite lucky in that a lot of our things and a lot of our data are published in the public domain, and they're easy to access. And we work with a number of civil society organizations who live in contexts where this is not the case. So it's a common obstacle that is faced. And what we advise when we have the conversations with these civil society organizations in these contexts is that you need to be able to, there's specific data that you can lobby for and ask for, but in order to be able to do that, you need to not be alone. And it's always best to link up with other groups or like-minded people, academics, other researchers who are interested in the same things that you are, so that you can coordinate an effective campaign that focuses specifically on transparency. There's also we also talk about using the media in order to, you don't have to have the most robust research and analysis if you're not at that stage yet, but then using the media in order to, or social media for, like we've used communication strategies and other things that raise awareness of the need for having the access to these transparent budgets and figures. And yeah, I think this is something that we work on a lot with other organizations, but until you're in a position, there's always the option of creating your own research, even if it's a small project, rather than trying to do everything at once, trying to collect data on a small group of people inside how women experience university education, for example. You always start small, but we have much more constructive and detailed conversations with organizations facing this obstacle. So we're very aware.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And I would like to ask you and Mariam if you have any upcoming events, any trainings, any information you would like to share. We will be very, very happy to disseminate it in our network, within our networks. So please do not hesitate to do that.
Thank you so much, Sama.
Yeah. We have 2 more questions. I will ask you to go to the English channel because I will read it out in Arabic. So Hind Selim says, هل لديكم مقترح بالتعامل مع التحديات التي تواجه دول ليس لديها قانون إتاحة المعلومات مثل مصر؟ لأن عدم إتاحة المعلومات تحدي كبير يواجه النسويات في مصر لعمل حملات لإدراج الموازنة المستجيبة للنوع الاجتماعي. You can answer this question because it's in Arabic. The next one is in English. So you can go back to the other channel. Turn off yeah.
Yes, I think, thank you so much for this question. I think it was similar to what Hannah was saying, really. I think about generating data in other ways, even if that is very much at the local level or doing questionnaires, building a picture, building a story in ways which might capture the attention and the interest of policymakers that you were trying to make the case to. I think also looking at other contexts, using case studies from other countries in similar situations who have perhaps made more progress on gender responsive budgeting is also really useful. So I think it's about working with what you have and learning from other examples as well. And also very much kind of framing the issue, connecting the issue to other ones, which might be more of a priority, I suppose. So similar to what Mariam was saying previously, linking into the Labour government's agenda to tackle child poverty, that was a really good entry point for us to start talking about women's poverty. So also being a little bit strategic, I think, in connecting your agenda and what you're trying to promote to issues which are already priorities for the government at various levels. So that might be around transparency, for example, or that might be about anti-corruption and that kind of accountability, those sorts of measures. That's often been a useful entry point. But Hannah, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
No, I think so. Yeah, when Marian talks about using positive examples from different contexts, which have maybe made progress on things that you're trying to achieve in your context. For our training that we have planned in Sierra Leone in a couple of weeks, one of our expert trainers is based in Latin America, and they'll be using examples from Argentina, who has made a lot of progress on specific issues. So even though the contexts seem very different, there's always lessons to be learned from looking at different global contexts. So this is something that we do during our training sessions, because our expert pool of trainers have a very good understanding of comparing and contrasting different contexts.
Thank you, Hannah. We have 2 more questions, and then we can go to the next section. So Safaya says, what is your approach to convince policymakers to adopt GRB, especially in a patriarchal society? And Siwar asks if there is one topic that you have worked on the most.
I think regarding the first question, I think we've probably covered that, I think, already, looking at these different strategies which we can use to lobby policymakers in different areas, working with the data that we do have, looking at positive examples from other countries and trying to link this agenda to other agendas, priority agendas of the government in question. And in terms of what we have worked on the most in this particular in this programme, I think an issue which has come up in multiple situations has been around public safety. That has often been a priority which different organizations in different countries have said to us is a real priority, and the need to use gender responsive budgeting in order to promote that. And that's one of the reasons that in my presentation I used the example of the night stops in Kalmar in Sweden, which is specifically related to public safety. So I would say that has been something that has emerged as a common theme from different contexts. Yeah, Hannah, I don't know if you want to add anything or if we go straight to Evian.
No, I think you've covered everything, and in the interest of time, hand over to Evian.
Thank you so much, Hannah and Marion. So let me introduce.
Oh, I think you've muted yourself, Summer.
Sorry, I would like to introduce Ebienne. So Ebienne joined the Women's Budget Group in 2021 as their first paid intern. She currently leads on the Early Career Network, which is a space for feminist researchers in academia, policymaking, and the third sector to connect with their peers and with established experts. The goal is to foster the next generation of feminist economists and researchers, equipping them with the tools to influence public policy and contribute to a more gender equal economy. Ebienne is currently completing her master's degree in political science at Stockholm University and has previously worked and volunteered across the public and third sectors. Ebienne, the floor is yours. We are very excited to hear about the Early Career Network.
Thank you, Summer. Thank you for the introduction. And thanks to Kvinna for organizing the webinar today and inviting us to speak, and for everyone that's joined so far. So I'm just gonna share my screen. Is that all okay? Yeah. Perfect. So let me just, so far you've heard my colleagues discuss how we build the capacity of women organizations, both nationally in the UK and internationally. And another element of the Women's Budget Group is our work building the capacity of our future feminist economists, and that's through the Early Career Network. So what I'll be talking you through today is what the Early Career Network is, what we do, how we do it, and the importance of such networks. And so what is the Early Career Network, or ECN for short? So the WBG ECN is a space for PhD students, early career academics, and early career researchers in the third sector and the policymaking world to come together. Our goal is to connect feminist researchers in the early stages of their careers working on economics, political science, and public policy through a gendered lens. We launched in early 2019, and so far today we have up to 380 members signed up. So some things that we bring to our members, we bring a peer-to-peer support network connecting early career academics and researchers facing similar challenges. So creating this kind of community network where they can come and share their experiences together and work through the perils and joys of being in the academic world, share their work and research in a friendly setting, and engage in discussion and network with established feminist economists and other senior academics in relevant fields. Opportunities for developing skills such as learning how to communicate research findings with a wider audience, organizing events, and lastly, getting involved in the work of the Women's Budget Group. So there are multiple things that we do, but there's three things that we do sort of constantly through the year. So the first thing is our monthly book club. So as the COVID-19 pandemic confined us to our homes, the book club became virtual, and this actually increased our attendance rates quite a bit. And you know, book clubs and literature in general has such an extraordinary job of provoking community and conversation, and this is why we find book clubs to be an important resource. You know, they help develop a deeper understanding of a reading, which are complex readings, which are often intimidating when you're digesting it alone. And another thing we do is sort of engage through sort of social media, and we do this through our monthly newsletters and Twitter account. Newsletters are a cost-effective means for building relationship. And this is how we sort of maintain regular contact with our members. And lastly is our annual conference, which we just had a couple of weeks ago, which was a great success. And this is sort of a platform that we provide for our members to present their research on a wider platform. Conferences in general are a great opportunity for people to meet like-minded professionals who share the same passion and interest in your research, and also a space to meet more established researchers, senior professionals, and a space for where they can also test their work and put it out there and see how the audience reacts to it, and also receive any critical feedback and responses to their research. Another thing that we do, which we did a lot before the pandemic, was sort of in-person events. And this was the main way we interacted with our members. So a couple of examples you can see here. Our first picture is the first annual conference that we held in 2019 at the University of Liverpool, and the topic was gender budgeting and public policy design for gender equality. The second picture you can see there is another thing that we encourage, which is students and members to host their own events at the universities. And we sort of help by bringing in speakers, which is normally the hardest part of organizing such events. We find speakers from our members. As you can see here, we have Diane Elson, who came to speak at the Institute of Development Studies on Feminist Economics and Development. And the last is us at a university career stall, where we try to engage younger students in feminist economics. And I'm just going to speak on some things that we want to do in sort of moving forward in the new year in 2022. So one of the main things we do, our goal for the ECN is to foster the next generation of feminist academics. So as you can see on the left, we've got a very bleak statistic here, where women make up just 1/3 of graduates in economics. And women and state school pupils are much less likely to choose to study economics at university. And previous research has shown that there are big differences between ethnic groups in their take-up of economics as well. Beyond having representation in the profession, the low take-up of economics as a degree by those from underrepresented groups has broader implications for inequalities in pay and social mobility, in light of research that shows economic degrees offer some of the highest financial returns of all subjects in the UK. Although financial ambition shouldn't be the only factor when choosing a degree, more needs to be done to engage young people about the scope of their university degree choices. And along with encouraging more women into economics, we want to sort of demystify some of the understandings of what you can do with a economics degree, because it's often assumed that by studying economics, you are limited to a corporate role in management, finance, and accounting. However, an economics degree is a powerful tool in social justice issues. You learn to apply a variety of theoretical perspectives to issues of economic growth, wealth, poverty, and power. And this provides a strong foundation in a career in public policy, where you can influence policy decisions in a very real way. The second thing that we do already and we want to continue to do is our blog series. So often we get approached by ECN members who are interested in writing blogs for us. And sometimes these are sent fully finished. Sometimes they ask for advice, themes, and possible directions on ideas that they are trying to disseminate. And this enables our feminist sort of researchers to publish early conceptual thinking, presentational findings, and systematic or policy reviews. And these are all published on our websites, so for a wider audience to have engagement with it. And also we share it on our Twitter page. And finally, we want to get back into sort of in-person events. And this is done mainly through facilitating our members through hosting university events. And this is a great chance for our members to create networks within their own universities and build important skills such as communication and organization. And this is normally advertised through our newsletter and promoted through our Twitter page. And finally, just to sort of close, I want to reiterate the importance of an early career network. So, you know, community is one of the is an important setting. It's developing links to other researchers at a similar stage in their academic career and provides the potential for support networks during difficult periods. Often some of the most fruitful collaborations stem from long-standing connections between researchers, and this kind of builds the ground for future academic or non-academic collaborations. Another important factor is it breaks barriers. So interacting with senior researchers can often be a daunting prospect for early career researchers, especially for those who suffer with imposter syndrome. So I think, you know, with the early career network, you create a platform which makes it easier for early career researchers to interact with some senior researchers who you know, you wouldn't have the chance otherwise. And lastly, skill development. So with early career networks, it provides the first opportunity for early career research to develop on skills related to interdisciplinary research, and establishing the skill set in a friendly and constructive environment is a relatively unique opportunity provided by early career networks. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you for listening. We've got my email on the page there, and I'll put it into the chat as well, but this is the web link to become a member and to follow us on our Twitter page. And yeah, I invite anyone to share any questions they may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abin. It's so amazing to know about the Early Career Network. And you know, what I like about the Women's Budget Group is that it's an intergenerational transfer of knowledge and skills, and it's brilliant to build, you know, a generation that they can take over and build on the work that is being done. So I encourage people now, the audience, if they have any question, to ask them in the Q&A box. I have a question about how do you hire people to join the Early Career Network? How, what do you target most? Do you have like a criteria? Do you do interviews? How this all works?
So membership for the Early Career Network is completely free, and we have the advantage of the Women's Budget Group having a great platform where we can attract people who are already following us, and then advertising the Early Career Network as an opportunity for those who are in the early stages of their academic career or even in the third sector to join via, you know, social media. We have the newsletter which people sign up to, and they receive sort of updates on job opportunities and research opportunities, and we send our emails to our members to promote the Early Career Research Network as well. So that's normally the best way of engaging new members.
Thank you so much. Another question is, do you already have people who already graduated now? How was being a member of this ECN beneficial to them? And where do they work now? If you have any stories to tell us.
Yeah, so with the Early Career network at the moment, a lot of the people that join are in sort of established networks in their university and their workplaces. And the new thing for 2022 would be engaging younger students, where we can sort of follow them on this path and to have like an overview of how many people we can actually encourage to take up economic degrees. But I would sort of, for example, with our annual conference that we just had, received like some great feedback from our members that presented research of how they found it really beneficial to have this platform, that they wouldn't otherwise have to present research that they're working on, and that they can sort of continue to take forward and receive feedback from the senior professionals that were already in attendance. So yeah.
Yeah, also understand that, you know, you target more people who take up economic degrees, but are you thinking about expanding to include people who are doing, I don't know, gender studies or public policy, who do not necessarily have a background in economics?
Yeah, I mean, the network is, it's there's no particular criteria for joining. It's for and economics is a interdisciplinary research area. So we've got people who study just gender, people that study political science and not necessarily have a strong economics background joining, and wants to learn more about how they can sort of branch the areas that they study with economics, and how they can sort of influence policy and how they can sort of bridge these different areas of research together. So people that join are not people that, you know, it's not limited to people with an economics degree. It's honestly for anyone with an interest in sort of gender and economic policy.
Brilliant, thank you. So Siwar, who is a colleague as well at the Kvinna, is also doing her master's in gender development at IDES, and she asked in the chat box how she can join the Early Career Network, and then Hannah kindly shared the link for joining. So you can look up the link and join.
Yeah. So our Early Career Network, a lot of our members are a large concentration are from the UK, but we do have a lot of members from outside the UK, from sort of Eastern Europe, India, the US. So it's not limited to just the UK. We try to engage people from all over the world, and hopefully, yeah, that is the platform to do that today as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. I was going to ask where your number come from. Well, I think we are done, and I would really like to thank you so much for all these important information and links and connections. And I would like to give the floor to our speakers if they have any concluding remarks they would like to make. Mary Ann? Yeah.
Just one really, which is that I think, you know, the key theme with all of this work is about partnership and working across disciplines and across sectors and across areas. And I think that, you know, where the Women's Budget Group has been able to be successful, it's been where it's been able to form those partnerships and sometimes act as a bridge between kind of academics who have a huge amount of expertise, but maybe aren't that engaged with policy issues on a day-to-day basis, and policymakers who maybe want that expertise, but need it in kind of bite-sized chunks because they're so busy. And then women in civil society organizations who, again, you know, both want the evidence, but also want to contribute to the research so that their voices are heard. And I think that's the thing that makes the real difference, and recognizing that there's lots of different forms of expertise. You know, you don't have to be an economist to contribute. And one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about at the Women's Budget Group is how we can ensure that we recognize, you know, expertise that's drawn from lived experience, and expertise that's drawn from research, and expertise that's drawn from frontline work, and all of these different things all bring different types of expertise, and they're all really valuable. both to the analysis, but also to kind of promoting the analysis. And I guess the second thing is that, you know, the analysis is only as important as the difference it can make. So it's not, you know, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I find these things fascinating, but I'm a bit of a geek. For most people, what matters is, are you able to bring about change as a result of this work? And so that means thinking not just about the research, but also about the audience and how you present things in a way that will actually bring about change.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you are very much impact-driven organization. So yeah. Anyone else would like to make a concluding remark?
Sorry, one more thing just to say, if people have further questions, please feel free to email us. You know, we're very happy to have conversations via email or to have follow-up meetings or anything like that. If there's anything that people think of later on, give us a shout. Yeah, and we will share your contact on the website when it's ready. Well, thank you very, very, very much. I really enjoyed this webinar, and I think it will be posted on the YouTube channel on the website very soon. And I hope we will have the opportunity to speak further about our collaboration and collaboration with our members. I wish you a very lovely evening and talk soon, hopefully.
Thank you
all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sama, and to Rabab too. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabab, for the interpretation.